Do you ever get the feeling that Labor's climate change policy is like a backroom deal within a deal? Or perhaps Chris Bowen's attempts to explain it sound like they are never ending or beginning on an ever-spinning reel. Then you try to understand the logic of it, but it's like a tunnel that you follow to a tunnel of its own, down a hollow to a cavern where the sun has never shone. And if all that makes you feel like you're stuck in a door that keeps revolving in a half-forgotten dream, well, congratulations. You're making as much sense of Australia's 2022 energy/climate policy as folk singer Noel Harrison did about a whimsical summer love affair in 1969.
Like a snowball down a mountain or a carnival balloon, like a carousel that's turning, running rings around the moon, like a clock whose hands are sweeping past the minutes of its face, and the world is like an apple whirling silently in space, like the circles that you find in the windmills of your mind.
Those windmills can get in your mind all right, especially if, like Climate Change Minister Chris Bowen, you've just legislated to reduce your nation's emissions by 43% by 2030 and need to quickly fill in the details about how you plan to do it. Labor's manifesto on this topic, Powering Australia, is a bit short on those details. It certainly doesn't mention any plans to build windmills off our beaches. Neither was this mentioned during the election campaign. This is curious because a different form of offshore energy generation was mentioned during the campaign, and sensationally so. Earlier this year, Australian resource company Asset Energy applied for an extension to its PEP 11 exploration licence, which authorised it to look for gas anywhere off the coast between Sydney and Newcastle. The area it was particularly interested in was over the horizon from Newcastle. This, of course, incited fury from the residents of some of the most expensive coastal real estate in the country, who objected to the application on two grounds: that the well would be unsightly, which it wouldn't because it was over the horizon, and that a leak from a gas well might spoil their beaches. Both the then Prime Minister Scott Morrison and Anthony Albanese smelled votes in marginal seats on the eve of an election and swooped on them like a couple of ravenous seagulls diving on a discarded fish and chip wrapper. Albo said his position on PEP 11 was clear, quote, "It's a bad idea and only a Labor government will stop it. No ifs, no buts." Well, maybe one tiny little but, which emerged at the press conference Bowen held last week. You know how some people thought a single gas well over the horizon would be an eyesore? Well, wait till they see 200 windmills sticking out of the water off the beach when the wind farm earmarked for Newcastle gets up. According to this map on the green energy website Renew Economy, the Newcastle wind farm would be so close to the beach you could almost swim out to it. It's adjacent to the entrance to Newcastle Harbour, which is often smashed by big swells generated by storms coming up the coast from the Southern Ocean. You might recall during one of these storms in 2007, the 40,000-tonne bulk carrier Pasha Bulker washed up on the beach south of the harbour entrance. Imagine the damage it would have done if it had ploughed through a forest of aquatic windmills. Now, to be fair to Bowen, he wasn't plucking this idea out of thin air. He was merely building on the groundwork laid by the previous government, which passed the Offshore Electricity Infrastructure Bill in 2021. Bowen said at the press conference that offshore wind farms are a key measure of the 82% renewable plan and that Australia is, quote, "way behind the rest of the world in producing wind off our coastline." No shortage of it at press conferences though.